All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Nerf Surf and Turf. View from afar. It is day 17, ladies and gentlemen, and you can see, even from afar, many things have changed. So, if we start where we normally start, which is in the New World, we will see that obviously they have finally punched through to this southern region. So, we can see what used to be a clearly delineated border is now almost completely gone. The northern United States now has three territories, one, two, and three territories left. These two northern ones are about to be overrun. Many of you may notice that all of the conquered lands, all of them, are Greenland. So that's a very interesting development. Typically, when the dam breaks, especially teams that are working together tightly will race forward and capture together. The advantage of that, of course, is that they all benefit in the wealth of the new conquered territories. In this case, all of it is going to Greenland. Now, having said that, there is a strong benefit to racing troops in and capturing territories that you do not expect to keep, right? So once you break through the front lines and there's nobody in the backfield, there's a huge advantage to just racing through, capturing territories. And somebody say, well, you're not going to keep them. No, it doesn't matter if you keep them because you're destroying their morale. So you take that morale from whatever it used to be, which it probably wasn't that great in Central America, so probably around 70, 65. But as soon as you capture it, crash it down to 25%, right? And so even if it gets captured back, then, doesn't matter. You've already screwed them over. So that's probably what's happening throughout this region, and it was due to those cruisers that Greenland was able to turn out there, that he was able to punch through down here. I am surprised that Southern Canada did not get a few of these. Southern Canada is starving, dying on the vine, and really they need to get some of those territories into his hands, keeping in mind also that Southern Canada is their land power. So they kind of need him to come back into full strength here to be able to assist in this southern push. Another thing I did notice is that Power of Us is starving, and we talked about went into that morale spiral. One of the things you can do when that happens is go ahead and grab, if you've got 100 troops on the board, grab 80 of them and suicide them off somewhere. Attack into your enemy to the south, somewhere down here, potentially right here. What is this, Detroit? Attack away, whether you're going to win or not. Hold some back defensively, because don't forget, every infantry eats 20 wheat and I think it's 20 wheat and 5 oil per day. Don't quote me on that, but each and every single infantry does. So if you can get rid of, say, 100, then that's a significant amount, right? So that's 2,000 wheat per day that you can save having been eaten, and 500 oil per day. So you could potentially get rid of that spiral effect that comes from lacking resources by simply suiciding your infantry away. I don't know if Power of Us is doing that, but what I do know is that whatever's happening, all of the attacking is coming from Greenland. So may or may not be a good thing. We may see some trading back or rebelling back, and then see some of this southern and northern Canada coming in behind and picking up some of those. Who knows as we move forward? But regardless of, this might not be the best way to do it, but the fact is it happened. And, once this kind of breach happens, it's going to be very, very difficult for the United States to come back from this. It does look like Canada and the Greenlanders sort of, I think, have kind of run away with this. I don't ever want to just say it's over, because I know that people can turn things around and certainly can at least fight to a standstill at some point. But that was a big breach. That was a big breakthrough. It looks like there's one last battle kind of going on up here. And really, as I've mentioned, Northern Canada and Southern Canada haven't even really started to stream down yet. So it's looking pretty grim for America over here, for the United States over here, but looking great for those Canadians. As we move east here, looking at things, they look fairly stable down here. You will notice that it does look like finally Benaiah has broken through into Arabia here. So that's the slightly lighter beige color. No doubt you can just imagine there is a war raging as Arabia tries to contain that breach, and as Benaiah and his allies no doubt are trying to push east. There's just no question that that's what's going to be happening. We do see that we have Morocco is maintained their 2 territories here in this what we might call the Ottoman Peninsula here. We do see that Raya Force has continued to sort of stream in and take over. He has the majority of this peninsula, but we do see Arabia maintaining this territory, and we do see Romania keeping this territory as well. So this is a patchwork here, but most of this belongs to the Central Powers here. What I've been calling the Central Powers here of Hemland, Swedish Viking, and Raya Force, who became the Grand Master Waterfowl Hunter at some point. We've said it before, probably say it again, that that the Mediterranean is a swarm of activity. There are over a dozen cruisers and various kinds of ships now in that region of various countries. I'm going to say 4 different countries have ships in the water in the Mediterranean. It is nuts. You can't see them from here because you can't see them, but they're there, and they're angry, swarming like bees, like butterflies, like angry butterflies. But anyway, they're down there fighting. Take my word for it. What we see also here is, of course, we saw that France took the Ottomans' remaining territory and their capital here. But this is a very unstable region now. Certain lightly held things. We're not sure what's going to happen. We know that Hemland is a land power, and we haven't seen a lot of that land power. We don't know where it is. We've seen a lot of the naval power of Raya Force flexing in the Mediterranean, but we're not sure what Hemland is up to. We know he's had a lot of territory for a long time. So, I think people are a little bit nervous about what kind of muscle he's going to have on the land, which is going to be active in sort of the European and Eastern European theater. So we'll see what happens moving forward. Another thing that is concerning is that nobody has seen Page move any troops or do anything in a couple 3 days now. And I think that's concerning to a lot of different people because Page was active diplomatically. We can see that Page still is technically active in the game, but I don't know who noticed this, but as you entered into the game, you might have noticed the rules. You can be gone for 4 and even 5 days. At the end of the 5th day is when the AI takes over. So I think concerns are rising throughout Europe about what is going on with Page. So that's going to complicate things. What might have used to have been a stable region might get changed up by that. When someone leaves the game and goes AFK, that changes everything. Old alliances shift. You have to wonder who's going to race in to fill that void. So it complicates things dramatically. I'm sure I know that Page has reached out all around. So these are people who now have to complete an entirely new calculation. Okay, so the final thing I wanted to cover over here is the obvious crumbling of Russia. God bless Russia. Russia was part of that doomed triumvirate of Lithuania, who left the game early, and Poland over here, who suicided up north into what at that time was perceived to be a powerhouse of Hertz, Hazeman, and Kali Kush. And I think rightfully so, but kind of hurt that coalition on his way out and gave a lot of the territories over to Britain. But now the last of that triumvirate, that doomed sort of trio, is on his way out. There's only 2 territories left. They're those big Russian territories, and it looks like northern Russia will get those 2. If I complained over here about Greenland getting all of the territory from the new conquests, I can very comfortably say that it looks to me like they have shared the conquests here. So Finland has taken, I think, 2 or 3 territories of the former Russia, and northern Russia has taken a couple and will take a couple more. When you can share that conquest, especially in a game like this, where you depend on each other so heavily because you've got specialists, I think that's the preferred way to do it. Now, that's not to say, remember, there was a choke point here. So both northern and southern Canada had to come through this choke point to get down here. However, this choke point can go directly here. There's a road, a straight road from here to here. So why northern and southern Canada did not take part in the spoils here, I'm not quite sure. But again, who knows how it'll all sort of shake out. We'll see moving forward. But I will say, well done here of a sort of a shared conquest down, and Russia's almost gone now. We talked about this now. If you look at this, the entire north here is one team. Now, before you wet your britches, don't get too scared, because remember, these are big, big territories. So what appears to be a huge amount of territory is much less than, say, in Europe, because the European countries are just smaller and just have more resources. So don't get fooled by the size of this. We've all sort of been through this idea of like, look how giant these territories are. They're big, as compared to some of these smaller European territories. They're much smaller, tiny little guys. Look how small these are, right? So the idea being that even though it looks big, it's not quite as big as it looks, but it's still impressive. They have consolidated the north, which means that they don't really have anybody at their back or at their sides, and that's going to become an interesting proposition for those in the middle. So again, lots of fascinating stuff going on. We have a southern coalition. We have the North, who obviously remembers up here. And then we have a very powerful central coalition who seems to be maybe no longer working with the other central coalition. But again, keep in mind, these coalitions will shift. As one coalition gains more power than the others, then it behooves the others to put aside their differences and team up on that stronger coalition. Nobody wants to let this game be run completely by one coalition, right? Nobody wants to let this one coalition dominate the entire game. So these players are smart enough to shift alliances as things change. So this is a fascinating game. We've seen alliances that I didn't think would actually form have taken place in natural responses as this game develops. So great stuff going on here. Very interesting stuff going on here. Congratulations to Greenland for breaking through over here. Congratulations to the Northern Coalition for more or less wiping out Russia. Congratulations down south for breaking into Arabia. But I noticed now it's been a couple days. Seems to be a bit of a stalemate over here. And then let's just see what happens in Europe. As always, Europe is just an absolute, hornet's nest. It's not surprising, it's still uncertain. We still don't know what's going to happen here. There are big armies. I will say France still has a lot of troops on the ground, hasn't lost much. I'd say Harkold still has troops. I haven't seen Harkold do a whole heck of a lot. I know Hemlin's got a lot of troops on the ground. I know Swedish Viking has a lot of troops on the ground. So there's a lot of countries throughout this middle zone here who have not really engaged and lost a lot of stuff yet, which means there are troops on the board. Where are they? I don't know. Find out, figure it out, try to, especially if you're near them, you need to know where they are. But there's a lot of troops on the board in Europe, both Western and Eastern. So big stuff on the horizon still to come. All right, guys, that's about it. Thanks for tuning in. I'll catch you all next time. Adios, amigos.